Fashion designer has come in for criticism after selling pants which supposedly flatten the genitals of boys as young as 4. The briefs are sold by a company called Carmen Liu, I believe, which is described as the UK's first brand to design flattening and tucking underwear. Well, Conservative peer Baroness Nicholson has been critical of these products and joins us now. Thank you very much. What are some of your concerns?
My concerns, I used to work to Save the Children, and I now chair a charity that works a huge amount in children overseas, Ukrainian children and so on. And obviously I'm deeply concerned that the UN Convention for the Rights of the Child, which is reflected almost exactly in our own Children's Act, allows full health for children, absolutely demands it, and also demands that they're not exploited for sexual or commercial purposes. And this thing just falls straight into both of those convention articles.
You don't think it's possible that a child as young as 4, a male child, might just want to wear them? No?
I don't think it's a good idea
Just speak freely, it's fine, whatever your view is.
I'm not a mother or a grandmother at the moment, but nonetheless, certainly the medical profession has already said that to press a child's like that while it's growing, it will undoubtedly harm it.
OK.
So that's good enough for me.
So, talk to me about these two elements of it, then. There seems to be physical harm, but also the exploitation, potential anyway, exploitation of children for commercial gain.
Correct.
So let's start with the physical elements.
And sexual gain.
And sexual gain,
yes.
I suppose, all right.
Because obviously sex, as it's to do with its genitals, it's not to do with anything else, not to do with its brain, not to do with its brawn, it's not to do with its sport, it's to do with its genitalia.
OK. Do you think it would be irresponsible for any parent to buy this item of clothing for their child? I
think the parents would be wrong to do that and should consult the doctor, and if necessary, the lawyer. They shouldn't do it.
OK. OK, fair enough. And that's your view, of course. But in terms of a company promoting it for commercial gain, I suppose the gender-neutral market is larger than it's ever been before. Maybe they're just hopping on board with it.
I don't think it's anything to do with gender. I think it's to do with the sexual or commercial exploitation of children. Unfortunately, grown-ups do this all the time. That was the need for the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child. I was in the Save the Children when this was drafted, and then in Parliament when it was passed. And I've used this convention in different countries to stop child trafficking, for example.
OK.
We're starting to work on that in Ukraine at the moment. So it's perfectly clear. Now, parents obviously are parents, and I'm not parent, but I would suggest this is not a sensible thing to do on the grounds of common sense, but also from the UN Convention and the Children's Act and the rights of the child to normal health. This is not the right way forward.
Well, I'm going to bring my panel in a second, but just before that, look, I suppose I would have thought the company, I mean, they'd be mad not to say this, but I would have thought the company would say this is about, you know, I suppose, promoting an avenue for children who want to wear gender-neutral clothing and this and that. You seem to think this is the sexualisation of children.
I think my principal concern, and I'm not a medical professional, but the medical profession immediately said this is a very bad idea. You will crush the child's genitalia, and they're growing, and they're 4. And, of course, at the age of 4, they don't really have they don't have the capacity or the competence or the agency to decide their gender or anything like that. That's much later on.
So it would potentially then, in your view, if we take this to its logical conclusion, be parents or adults potentially forcing a gender neutrality onto their children?
Actually, I think it's totally commercial. It's been done for commercial purposes, and we're not meant to exploit children commercially in any way at all, particularly not on health grounds. That's very clear in all the legislation. OK, well, look, I'll bring my panel in. Now, look, Vancy, I hope you don't mind me going to you first. I hope it doesn't seem too gratuitous, but your views, please, go on.
By all means. I mean, it strikes me that this isn't necessarily gender-neutral attire. This is, to some extent, gender-nullifying attire, and I think that there's a distinction.
Interesting point, that.
Young people
What a fabulous face you have. Really beautiful. Absolutely stunning.
And
I love it.
I'm only wearing moisturiser. It's very subtle.
You're absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
Go on, sorry. Yes.
Well,
gender nullifying.
Yeah, it's sort of gender nullifying. Now, look, there's no doubt that there are kids across all ages who are really uncomfortable with aspects of their body. I do think that, and again, I say this with no children, but I would hope that my children are encouraged in every way to be comfortable with the body they have, understanding there will be exceptions to that at various points in their life, and there might be medical interventions at various points in people's lives. But it does seem to me that a pair of marketable undergarments that will be purchased by parents for 4-year-old kids, I mean, how big is that market? It's
Well, also, I'm not being funny about this. I hope you don't think I'm, speaking out of turn here. But I mean, does a 4-year-old need much flattening, really, down there? It's not, it's not as if they've gone through puberty and this, that, and the other.
But also,
It's
it's
not...
the how much money this company's making.
Yeah.
I mean, they're selling these pants, which have pink and blue ribbons, for £37 for three.
What?
For 3 pants. I mean, that seems to me financial exploitation.
Well, it's sexual exploitation.
Well,
it's exploitation
financial
of
as
children.
well as sexual.
The exploitation of children, and it's also moving across parental rights for how the children are brought up. That's perfectly firm as
but the
well.
other thing
But I
is-
tell you what, if they turn out like you, they'd be stunningly beautiful anyway. But I think they'd be girls.
that's fine.
I don't think they'd be boys anyway.
I wonder, when you use the word sexual exploitation, this is a very sort of
go on.
red-hot term. It's not the case that these children are necessarily being sexually abused or sex trafficked.
They're being
that you
physically
mean?
abused.
Physically
That's what the medical
abused with their
profession
sex
says.
organs.
Yes.
But it's not necessarily that there's some perverse erotic impulse behind the parent.
No,
no
and
idea.
it's the fact that these pants
no
are meant to
idea.
make them sterile. I mean, that's
Any
the whole
form of
point.
exploitation doesn't work for children.
Oh, absolutely.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.